Okay, welcome everyone. This is a talk about the Microsoft Team Foundation version control. For those of you that don't know, version control is a way to keep track of all the different changes that you've made to your software, or any file, for example, or for that matter. So, for example, you're writing an essay, and it's your rough draft, and you save your rough draft and you submit that, and you make more edits, draft 2, make more edits, draft 3, draft 4, final draft, actual final draft. You have there on your file system, you have all these different files, and it gets really cluttered. And so I'm sure all of you have done that. Have all of you done that before? Yeah, okay. So what version control does is it allows you to take snapshots of the file, and it allows you to keep a very detailed history of all the changes that have been made, and it allows you to also collaborate with other people on the project, and it makes that really easy, and it makes it easy to see who made what changes, why they made those changes, and it works really well, and that's why we use it. So I'm sure some of you have heard of Git before, which is another version control system. Once again, this is Microsoft's Team Foundation version control, and so I'm going to be demonstrating this live, integrated into Visual Studio. So at this point, we're going to assume that you know what Visual Studio is, how to get it, and I'm going to show how to create a project using TFS, and how to make changes and keep track of all your tasks and all the version history within TFS using Visual Studio. So let's get started. So in order to use TFS, you have to have a Microsoft account. Everyone actually has one through OSU. So if you're a student and you have a Microsoft account, you can sign up for free. So if you go to visualstudio.com, I'm going to go ahead and sign in. It's going to take me to the Oregon State login page. Okay, here we are. So this is what you see when you first log in to visualstudio.com. I'm going to go to my personal Visual Studio page. And when you first log in, when you first sign up, this is what you'll see. So it'll ask you to create a new project in TFS. So we give it a project name, a description, and you can choose Git or Team Foundation version control is what we're going to be using. That's what we're using in this demonstration. So I'll make project name. I'll call it TFS training, and description. Let's make it a training project for TFS. And I'm going to create my project. Okay, so now I have created the project, and so now I need to connect my local instance of Visual Studio with the project. So Studio 2017. You can use any version of Visual Studio, and actually Microsoft allows you to download Visual Studio Community Edition from that same visualstudio.com. It's completely free for students, and that's pretty much what I'm using right here. It has all the same features, TFS and everything. So you can go download Visual Studio if you don't have it already. I'm going to go to my Team Explorer and go to this Manage Connections page. Manage Connections, connect to a project. And I'm going to add an account, or not add an account, add a TFS server. There we go. So this TFS server URL is just going to be my visualstudio.com URL. Add that. Come on. I guess it's going to want me to add my account. Okay, so you are going to have to log in one more time through Visual Studio. There we go. So now we have this TFS training. I'm going to connect to that. Now we're going to configure the workspace. So right now we have a server folder, which is TFS training, and that is what we see here. Go to code. There's nothing yet, but that's what we see right here. This is TFS training, and we need to make a local folder that's actually on the hard drive, not on the server, and that is what we're going to use. That's where we're going to store all our code locally, and when we make changes to the local copy, then we'll be able to push those changes to the server. So we have to tell it, we're going to map the folder to a local folder so that it knows which folders on the local, or which files on the local hard drive correspond to which files on the server. So I'm going to go ahead and map this TFS training document to workspaces. Set that up all automatically. Okay, so now I have successfully mapped a workspace. So let us let's create a new project. Let's make a simple project. .NET Core Console app. So we'll call this project. We'll call that the solution. And then we'll browse to, let's see, where did I map that? It was what, workspaces? Where did that go? Hold up, let me. Source workspaces, TFS training. Okay. Source workspaces, TFS training. Let's select that folder. And I'm going to check this add to source control, which will automatically add all the files in my project to source control so that we can keep track of it. So I'm going to hit OK. It's going to create the project. And now if we go to pending changes over here in Team Explorer, there we go. We can see everything that was added. We can see everything that was added to the source control folder. And so one of the main reasons that TFS is really nice is we can create tasks to keep track of what we need to do, and we can keep track of what we need to do and who's doing it. And we can keep track of which tasks have been completed, which ones still need to be done, when they need to be done, and all of that. Let me log in again. No, go away. Okay, so here we are. Here we are in our work item page. And so I'm going to create a new title, which is going to be create TFS training project. Add a description. So the solution or the description is going to be a more in-depth description of what your task is, and you can also assign the task to someone. So right now I'm the only one on the project, but theoretically if you have a project with multiple people or even dozens, hundreds of people, you can select who the task is assigned to, and it will appear in their tasks for them to do. So I'm going to save this work item. And then what I can do is I can add a work item by ID, and that was work item 5, right? So now here I've added the work item. So if I go into the work items after adding these changes, it will link all of these changes to the work item, so I can see that these changes are associated with the work item. So I know that this specific version was made to create the TFS training project. And right here, I'm resolving the task, meaning that I've completed it. I can also associate it if it's just part of a step to achieve that task. You can associate multiple change sets with a task. So I've added my work items. In this case, it's just one. You can add multiple. You can add as many as you want. I'm going to add a comment to let the others that are potentially working on my project with me, I want to let them know what I changed. So added the base project for TFS training. And now I can check this in. And now if I go and check, go back to my web, and I refresh this page, now we can see everything that's hosted on the server. Now we have TFS training solution. Go to our source, program.cs. We have all the files that I just created on my local machine, and I push them all to the server. So let's see. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple more tasks. So let's add a README to the project so that people know what's going on in the project. README to the project, so everyone knows. And I can save that. Is there an easy way to create a new work item from within here? I'm not actually sure. But I'll create another new task. Let's say, let's see, update program.cs to a message out to the console. Gonna assign that to myself once again. Okay, so now if I go to work items, let's see, I can go to my tasks. We can see I have two tasks, numbers 6 and 7, and I can open them We can see all the details of the tasks. And that's a really easy way to keep track of everything that's going on. Using these queries, you can also find other people's tasks. You can create bugs and test cases. And so that helps everyone keep track of what needs to get done and what is getting done and what has already been done. So what I'm going to do now is if we go back here, so what I can do is I'm going to make an edit directly from this web page, but this will be simulating someone else making an edit on another machine. So I'll create this README. I'm just going to check it in. So I'm going to associate it with add README, and I'm going to check that in. And so now, if I go over here, I can right-click on my project, and I can do a get latest version, which will get the latest version from the server. So right now we can see this is all we have in the folder. And if I do a get latest version, now the README has appeared. So that was a file that was created by, well, it was created by me, but it's as if the file was created by someone else. And I just logged into my computer and I grabbed the latest changes and I grabbed all the changes from the server that were stored on the server. So now what I can do is I can go to the README and I can edit the README. Let's see, this project. This project introduces TFS, and I'll save that. If I go back to pending changes, we can see that I have made a change to the README. And then if I go back over here, go to code, README, I'll edit it right in here, and I'll make a different change. So someone else is changing the file. Let's see. It is lots of fun. Gonna go ahead and check that in. So now it's as if someone else has modified the file, and I just modified the file. And I'm gonna add a work item by ID. Is work item 7? Nope, it was work item 6. So I can actually remove the work item. Work item 6. There. So I can resolve that and enter the check-in comment. Well, actually, let's associate it because the README isn't finished. And I'll say added an introduction section to the README. I'm going to go to check it in, and Visual Studio will automatically prevent the check-in, and it lets me know that no files were checked in due to conflicting changes. Please resolve the conflicts and check and try again. So it's telling me that someone else modified the exact same file that I modified, and I need to make sure that the changes that we want to make are being saved. So it gives us a couple options. It'll open this resolve conflicts window, and we can either take the server version if we know the server version is correct. We can keep the local version if we know our local version is correct, or we can merge changes in the merge tool, and that's what you'll be doing most of the time. And it says, it's telling me I have that open. Okay, so now this is what the merge screen looks like. Right over here, we have the file that is on the server. And over here, we have the file that is local. And here, we have the result of the merge. So right now, we're not keeping any of the changes, and the result is the old version of the file. And we can check this, and it takes the change on the server, or we can check this. Takes the local change, or actually we can even keep both changes, and we can go down here and we can modify the result. So let's say I want to keep both changes, put them both on one line, and now I can accept this merge. And now we can go to the README, and if you go here, we can do a compare with latest version. So it'll tell you what the difference is between the file that you have just modified and the file that is on the server. So I can do this, and it shows us that we added this little bit to the file. So this is what they have on the server. This is what I have on my local version. So I'm going to verify that everything is correct. And then I can go ahead and check this in. And now the check-in succeeded. And I can go reload this page on the server. And hey, what do you know? There's our changes right there in the server. So that's how you deal with different changes being made by different people. Also, we can do a view history, which shows us all the different changes that have been made. So there are a couple of things that TFS did for us automatically. So these were all automatic changes that were made when we create the project. Then right here, I added the base project, updated the README again, then I added the introduction section to the README. So those are all the different changes that I've made. And I can also take a look at each different change set. So I can go here, and over in the Team Explorer, it'll show us all the different changes that were made at that version. So I can take a look at all these changes. I can do the same for this one, and you can look at the version. And so you can see all the different changes that were made in between the versions. So that's the changes that change from this version to this version, or from this version to this version. And so let's say that I take a look at these changes, compare with previous version. So we can see the changes that were made between this snapshot of the history and the last one. And this project introduces TFS. So these are the same changes that we made last time. And let's say I checked in those changes and I really didn't like those changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll back these changes. So I click roll back. And now if I go to my pending changes, we can see that there's an edit and a rollback. The rollback is the edit. We can do a compare with latest version, and it shows us what is different. And so if you roll back a change set, it adds changes to your new pending changes that undo all the old changes for that change set. So I can undo that change set, or I can undo this change set. Any of them, I can open up that change set in the pending changes, and I can roll back those changes. So what I'm going to do is, here, let's actually make a task for that, because we have to make a task to keep track of it. Oh, there we go. It's the new task. Let's see. So bad. Need to fix it. Roll back the most recent changes. I'm going to assign that to myself. Okay, so now we have a new work item number 8. Add work item by ID. So I'm going to be resolving this, rolling back the transaction, check that in. And now I can refresh this page. I guess I have to go back and review history. Oh, I should have made a comment. But we can see that now there's a new change set rolling back this old change set. And if we go back to the server, once again, you can even see the history of the individual file on the server. And it shows us that we updated created the README. There's an add right there, an edit, another edit, and a rollback of change set 27 in change set 28. So that's how you undo changes if you've made them, and if you've made the changes and you don't want to check those, and you already checked them in and you want to get rid of them. So let's go in here, make a quick change to the program. Console write line hello world. Looks like it's already there. Let's make a quick change to this, and let's compare with the latest version. So as we can see, we made some changes here, and let's say I don't like those changes I just made. Perhaps they broke the build, and I just want to nuke all of those changes. So I can do an undo from here in the pending changes, and I can undo my changes, and there, all of my changes have been undone. Let's go ahead and actually make those changes. And let's make sure that this solution builds, because we don't want to check in changes that break the solution. Build succeeded, perfect. Let's see, what work item was that? Well, let's go back to work items, check my tasks, update program.cs, print a message out to the console. It's ID number 7. Go back to pending changes, add number 7. To the console. So once again, let's double check our changes before we check in. Perfect, exactly what we wanted. So I can check those in. And now anyone who's on the server can download this program, and they can compile it. We verified that it compiles, and they can run it, and it'll write hello there fine world out to their console. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So one thing that you come across a lot in enterprise development is there'll be say libraries or node packages, something like that, that you want to download every time that you're building the project, but you don't want to store those files in source control. So let's go to the folder. Let's see, this PC. Let's see, users, me, source. So let's add a new folder, and we'll call it packages. New text document. Let's pretend that's a package. And if we go to Visual Studio, and refresh Team Explorer, you can see there's actually an add that was detected. And it noticed that there was a package.txt that was added to the solution folder. And we want to make sure to ignore that so that it doesn't appear in the detected ads. If I go to detected ads, right click, we can ignore by folder packages. So now what we've done is we've created a .tfignore file. Let's open that up and take a look. So here in the .tfignore file, we can see that we want to ignore TFS training solution packages. So now anytime there's a file that is added to this packages folder, we are not going to add it to source control. And we're going to make sure that especially compiled files, binaries, you don't want to check those in. Libraries that are managed by a package manager or like node packages, stuff like that. You don't want to be checking those into source control because you can download those easily, and you want to make sure that you're not clogging up the server with a bunch of files that you don't need. I forgot to add a task for this, but let's add a task. Exclude packages from source control. So let's see, add a okay. So now we have a new task, task number 9. Going to add a check-in comment. Added to ignore all the packages folder. Okay, I'm going to resolve that work item. Check that in. And so now, anytime we go to the excluded changes, and let's add another thing to the packages. Where did packages go? Oh, it's in here. So now we have package 2. Go back over here, reload it. As you can see, there's no detected ads. So now anything that we add to the packages will automatically be ignored by TFS, and it will not be included in our source control. So that is pretty much all that we have to go over for the basics of how to use TFS. So are there any questions that anyone has about how everything works, or anything else that you want me to touch on or want me to go over? Yeah?
How does it handle merge conflicts?
Merge conflicts. Yes, so let's see, let's go back here. So if we go back to Source Control Explorer, view history. So over here, we can see that the README was edited, or no, that was, here the README was edited. So this README was edited to say this project is lots of fun on the server earlier. So that's simulating someone else modifying the project. And then over here, I went to add an introduction section to the README. Compare with previous version. And as you can see, the original sentence was written here. It was this project introduces TFS, and the server said this project is lots of fun, and so we merged that to say this project introduces TFS. This project is a lot of fun. And I'll actually do another example of that. So let me go back to the server. I'm going to edit this. Hello there, fine world. I'm going to say, yeah, lovely day, or lovely weather today. And I'll check that in just really quick. If I go back here, let's modify this to say something else. Let's see. Go to pending changes. Check this in. And if I go to check this in, Visual Studio will automatically let me know, hey, no files were checked in. There was a merge conflict. Please resolve the changes and try again. So we can take the server version, which is the lovely weather we have today, and then keep the local version, which is awful weather. Once again, the merge changes in Merge Tool will bring up both files side by side. So here we have the change that was made on the server, and we can see the server says, hello there, fine world, lovely weather today. And here on the local version, we have hello there, fine world, awful weather today. And this is the result of the merge of the changes. So this is what the file looked like originally before either of those changes was made. And now we're merging the two changes. So we can select the server version, and we have the result, which says, hello there, fine world, lovely weather today. We can choose the local version, hello there, fine world, awful weather today. Or we can do some combination of the two. So we can include both changes. We can actually even merge them together. So now we have one line that outputs, hello there, fine world, lovely weather today, hello there, fine world, awful weather today. And so that is how you would resolve a merge conflict. Obviously, this is a relatively simple example, but say there's a big block of code with multiple lines that have changed, and you want to keep some lines from one side, some lines from the other, and some of the lines are slightly wrong, so you got to edit them. So you can edit them down here in the result, and then you can accept the merge. Compare its latest version. So now we have this queued up for check-in, which takes the other version that the server checked in and it merges it with our version to create the new diff. So does that answer your question? Should I do a more complicated example? Or okay. Do you have a question?
Yeah. I'm assuming that TFS only works if you're using Visual Studio.
That's not necessarily true. There's another IDE. They also have a command line tool if you want to use that. But it's very easy to integrate it or to use it in Visual Studio because it's very well integrated, and there are a lot of tools built into Visual Studio to help you use TFS. So yeah, that's why my example uses Visual Studio as opposed to some other IDE, just because it's all integrated, it's all part of the Microsoft development ecosystem. So especially if you're using Visual Studio, if you're using something like C#, you can use TFS, and everything's all integrated together. Oh shoot, that is the wrong browser. Everything's all stored on the cloud. Go away.
And is that why you use TFS over something like Git?
There are a couple reasons that you might use TFS. So firstly, for one, TFS, everything is stored on the cloud. So you never lose any of the changes that have been made to your code. Also, with Git, every time you make a commit, you only commit it to your local repository. And it's up to the developer every time they make a commit to then push those commits to the remote. And then, so with TFS, every single commit is automatically pushed to the server. That way, you don't have to rely on your developers to push every time. TFS, once again, the tasks are really nice. So Git is just version control. TFS allows you to make tasks, make bugs. It has a testing system in it. There's also has a code review system. So for example, let me go to my history. So I can, let's say, go to this commit, change set details, actions. I can request a review, and I can enter the name of the reviewer and the area path and the code review subject, and I could submit a request. And so right now, I'm actually the only one on the project, but if there's multiple people on the project, you can have, say, a senior developer. You can have it set up so that every time someone checks in, they can choose someone to review their code. So you can have the senior developer go over the code, look over everything. That's really easy. Yeah, that's the main reasons. Obviously, there are other reasons why you'd use Git over TFS. Like Git has really easy branching. TFS, you pretty much just create another folder. But yeah, also TFS, you have to be online. If you're not online, you can't make any changes. Are there any other questions? Yeah. Let's see. I don't know if this is really a good time to go over making branches.
Yeah, it's very easy. Just go to that. Let's say this is the main branch. You always want to branch from main branch, right?
Right.
Let's say you may just right click, choose branch and merge. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can create a branch.
Create a branch for you.
Yeah. And so yeah, this will make a new branch of TFS Training Solution. So you can choose which version you want to branch from. So you can actually browse your change sets, and you can see exactly what changed. You can see the change sets that have been made, and you can choose where you want to branch. So these are all the change sets that were made to the TFS Training Solution folder. You can choose which change set you want to branch from. So let's branch from the most recent change. Yeah, it will also allow you to immediately download the target. So what this does is it creates a branch on the server, and it gives you an option to download the branch. So I'll say OK. And so now I have this branch, I have another branch. And so this is the original, and here's the other branch. And if I go back to my pending changes, it'll show everything in the branch. And actually, here's one thing I actually forgot to go over. So I forgot to check in my update to program.cs when I made the merge. So I'm going to go ahead and check that in really quick. But as you can see, what I did is I right-clicked this folder and I clicked exclude, which excludes all those changes from the check-in. And now I can go back here. I can do include. And so now everything is included. I should have made a task to branch. Create branch of and I'll assign that to myself. There we go. Okay. Should have made that task earlier. So here I am creating a branch, create branch. Should have named it something more creative, but now I can check that in. And now we can see we have two different branches. We have the TFS training solution and the TFS training solution branch, and these are actually stored on your file system. Go back to TFS training. You can see there's two different folders, and so you can access both branches at the same time on your file system. And now if I go to the server, I probably have to reload because it caches everything. There we go. Now I can see the two different branches. So this was last updated 33 minutes ago. Now I have the new branch, which was created just now. And now I can make changes to program.cs or anything else within that branch. And if I commit those changes, they will not modify the other branch, just like in something like Git. So that's the basics of branching. And yeah, you can also merge two branches, and the process of merging two branches is very similar to just merging two files. You just go one by one through the files, and you look at the diff, and you select which parts you want to keep. You can modify the output. It's the same 3-panel editor. Any other questions? Nope. Okay.
Do you have to be logged in to view projects that's hosted on Team Foundation?
It depends. You can make projects public, but I think by default they're private. So you would normally have to be logged in to view a project. And you would normally also have to have access to that project. So I can actually, let's see, I go to TFS training, security. Here we go. So we can change the permissions of whoever's on the TFS team. And so, yeah, you can change the permissions of whoever's a member of the TFS training team. You can also add new groups, stuff like that. So you can have pretty fine-grained control over who can do what in your repository. And you can modify users on the repo. You can remove them. I'm not going to remove myself. You can change the administrators. So, yeah. That it? Okay.
Thank you, Michael.